in? I know I've got a lot of questions, but I know you've got a lot of data. So why don't you jump in and share with us what is the state of the transit system for Ddot and some of the things that you're doing to try to improve?
Yes, well, I look forward to answering some questions afterward, but I think it's important that people see a lot of this information. I mean, it's a lot, so I'm going to be going through and share it again. How's that?
That sounds like a good plan. If it doesn't work, turn it off and restart.
Yeah, when in doubt. Okay.
There we go.
It moves. It's a miracle. All right. Technology. All right. So the pandemic continues, as you all know, and Ddot's goals are to provide safe, reliable service. I want to give you some information by the numbers here. Our team, we have a total of 668 employees. I wanted to show you that because we're budgeted for 978. So we're not just missing bus operators, but we need mechanics, we need CSAs, and then internally, a lot of the administrative positions, you know, we're just trying to fill. Times have changed with COVID. People are looking at things differently and looking at other opportunities that aren't necessarily 9 to 5 or require coming in. 411 operators were budgeted 510. This is no secret. It's reflected in the service. You see the annual expenses. That's stayed the same, but I think that the telling point is this revenue number. It's only 3.5 months worth of fare collection, so don't panic. But typically it's 20 million, and we're probably tracking more towards 8 to 10 million. So almost half of that. There's some ridership numbers that a lot of you are familiar with, and we have a lot of technology, and I'll talk about that. And then I just put up here the bus routes, the paratransit system, the number of vehicles, a number of bus stops, 144 square miles, and the number of fixed route. So I'm going to give you some quick project updates. We hear about it all the time. Coolidge, State Fair, electric buses, where are we? Well, Coolidge is moving along. I will tell you, since I've been here, it's made a drastic jump. So the goals are replace the existing Coolidge terminal that burned down quite some time ago, and we finally finished, or we're just finishing the architecture and engineering phase. Really, we have it developed. We just have to go through the NEPA process, and that takes time. It's my understanding it'll take about a year for us to finish the environmental process piece. So we're kind of caught up in a glitch there, but it's going to be 448 buses. We can expand to 216, and the targeted completion date is December 2024.
And this is one of, do you have 2 or 3 facilities where the buses go to get work done each night?
Right. So this will, we currently have Shoemaker, we have the central area, and then we have Gilbert.
Okay.
Gilbert is old and it's going to be demolished, and really the work will really, it needs to, the work will be coming out of Coolidge. Right. So we'll have Coolidge, the main, and Shoemaker still, and that's plenty for expansion. In addition, State Fair, I don't have to, I mean, if anybody's watching doesn't know about State Fair, I don't know what to say to you. It's a big deal. The city of Detroit's redeveloping a portion of State Fairgrounds, Woodward and 8 Mile. We listened to the people. The people told us what they wanted it to look like. So that this rendering is a reflection of what people indicated and wanted. So it is state of the art. I can't wait. We're looking at first quarter of 2023. I know people are saying by the end of the year, but given the fact, as I'm looking at it move forward, I think it's more realistic to say the first quarter. This isn't something you want to rush. Electric buses. I'm excited because I have this picture here, but I have this picture up because I didn't want to show you the actual bus. It's here. So we actually have 3 of the buses here. We're in the process of making sure that the barrier doors are in and everything's set for it to go out to the public. And then we're going to indicate which routes, we're working on which routes to run them on at first. And obviously we want to match it to the charging and the charging stations that we're putting in. But I can't wait. Pretty soon you're going to see them on the road. We'll announce it. We'll make sure that you hear about it first. New shelter replacement, 48 out of the 59 add shelters put in. But I will tell you that we are working on something even bigger, and it's part of the ARPA discussion in our last meeting that we had. Do people want to see more shelters and/or the current shelters replaced? And we're getting a lot of feedback, trust me, and we're going to continue, especially on April 6th when you help me host the next group of people to give their opinion. Fleet acquisition, I'm excited again. I talked about replacing 48 vehicles. Well, 29 of them just started trickling in. I have 20 of them, brand new buses on property. We're waiting for the other 9. We're going to put the barrier doors in. Within a month or two, I'd say probably about 2 months, you will see these vehicles replace all those old vehicles that you see out there, those 2010s that are clunking around. They're going to be gone. It's going to be great. And then by the end of the year, we have another 20 buses coming. So the next level, they're called Gilligs, the 2012s. Those will be gone. So again, a lot of great stuff happening.
Fresh
Talk about
new buses
yeah.
to replace some of those old ones. I know and that they've been through a lot. They've done a lot of service, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about metrics for a second. And in this, I'll go over some of this faster than other parts, but it's important so you know the fleet size already. The on-time performance dropped a little bit, and that's basically due to, it's hard to compare 2020 to 2021 because the majority of 2020, 3 months of it was riding for free. The second pandemic kicked in, the Omicron, and it just really wreaked havoc on our ridership. I'll show you actually a few ridership slides because I know you were interested in that. The pullout numbers, we put them here for the purposes of just comparing what you're used to seeing, but we're going to be replacing pullout with service coverage, because service coverage actually reflects the actual service that you're getting. The pullout does not. So a lot of people saying, give me your pullout numbers, your pullout numbers. Those pullout numbers do not indicate whether you're sitting there waiting for the bus for an hour or two, right? The pullout numbers could look great, but you still look. So the service miles, and I'll talk about that too, and I'll break it down, is more important. You see the annual ridership, it dropped. It's going to be about half. It's going to be a little higher than 8.5 when it's all said and done for fiscal year. Now, reportable accidents, this looks kind of strange too, but remember, we're going from a strange year in 2020 to 2021. In addition, I brought in a new safety officer who's looking at things differently. So 1.48 is a better reflection of what's really going on if you use safety standards that we needed to put into place. So I'm really excited about these numbers and moving forward, being transparent, letting people know what these numbers mean. And then the people don't feel like they're getting the wool pulled over their eyes, as I've heard many a time prior to my arrival.
And that
Now,
having the buses go 100,000 miles between accidents is pretty impressive. We know how rough those streets can be sometimes. So that's not, well, there's some up and down. That's not looking too bad.
no, not at all if you compare it to the industry. I mean,
Yeah.
Now the fare box number, I almost say ignore that because it's only 3.5 months of fare collection. Right. So it was
Yeah.
only what we started in, I think it was March, and then the end of the fiscal year, so that
So yeah,
isn't really a true
give a quick
reflection.
reminder on fiscal year. So this is not calendar year. This is the city of Detroit's fiscal year.
That's correct. That's correct.
Which
So
goes, is that June?
it goes July to June.
July to June.
So in March, we started collecting fares and then the fiscal year was over. So I'm using real numbers. I could put another column in to reflect what's going on today, but then I wouldn't have a full year and it would be very confusing. But of course, that information is available on the website. Now, ridership by the month, I just showed this to give you an idea. You see, we talked about when the fair started. You see what happened to the ridership? There was a big dip. Omicron was really kicking in August, and then we did our service change. And when we did our service change, we start seeing the numbers trend back up in December. This is a year-to-year ridership. I like putting this up to kind of gives you an opportunity to really look at what was going on the year before. You see how in 2020, in January, how high it was, and then how it dropped. You see where the pandemic hit. Right.
Yep. Yeah, and that January was roughly where it had been for a while. That was sort of around the norm.
Yes, and we're working to get back to that, and everything that we're doing is to get back to that stage. So that's why we're doing the service mile count. We're looking at if we can increase the service miles, hopefully we'll be able to increase the ridership. But I'm not sure. We have that old saying. You told it to me, build it and they will come. But I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to build it. We're going to increase the service and hopefully we'll get more riders. But right now, This lets you know as you go towards 2021, it just shows the trend. And again, where it's starting to angle up, but until we get more operators and more service miles, it's not going to go up. We have to do something. Okay. Now, when we talk about the schedule, I thought about you when I made this slide, because every time I say, well, you have scheduled ridership, and then you have what we're actually doing, and people weren't really catching on. So take a look at the scheduled line. Now take a look at the actual line and look at the date when we did the service change. So that gap between the scheduled and the actual were the people waiting for buses that weren't going to show up. So that's the best way to describe it. So when people were saying, well, we want to go back to the old schedule, if I put it at the old schedule, you will actually be waiting longer. So even though we separated we changed the schedule, the frequency in such a way that it was a little longer of a wait, let's say from 15 minutes to 20 minutes or a half hour, it's a bus that will actually come that you can track. And to prove that, right after the service change, look at how we have the schedule. Now you know when the bus is coming and how we're performing. We're performing at about 95% or so. So we want to get that to 100%. In December, it was at 100%, but we had an incentive. We had an attendance incentive, and miraculously, a bunch of drivers showed up. And then once the incentive was over, the drivers vanished again, the internal ones. So we're looking at what incentives are available, what can we do to get the drivers that we have to work. So that's the best way to break it down. Here's the service changes. I just wanted to put this up here and to indicate what we did. We adjusted frequencies on routes. We temporarily suspended the 11, the 26, and the 47. I will tell you that when we looked at our customer service complaints, we have not received any complaints about those routes yet. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't bring them back. I know a lot of people are concerned. Even you said, you take it away, we never get it back. Well, I'm going to prove to everybody that that's not factual, because in April, we're going to bring back the 11 Claremont and the 47 Tireman. Okay. The only reason why we're not bringing back Junction is because we had 10 riders a day, and I just can't justify bringing it back at this time. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but it's important to bring those two back. And then the next step is to start increasing the frequency on the Connect 10s. And if I can get the Connect 10s at normal frequency and bring back the service, but do it with actual performance versus scheduled, that's the goal, and that's what we're doing. So I know it's hard to be patient, but you see it's starting to climb back. We're getting there. A little bit on the performance update. I told you already, we were at about 81% with that big gap. Now we're at 95%. That is a drastic change. You can depend on getting to work, getting to school, whatever you have to do, to the hospital with our current service and our tracker. We're working hard on the on-time performance piece, because once we get that going, sky's the limit. We have a foundation and a base. I want to put up some paratransit information. These are just statistics, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next with that. But the on-time performance information, the annual riderships, somewhat similar or the same. The New Freedom program, you see what's going on there. I'm in the process of trying to shake loose the ability to have people apply for New Freedom all the way until the end of the year. And
for anyone who's not familiar, I think most people know that the Ddot, or the Detroit Metro Lift, is the advanced reservation service for seniors, for people with disabilities, the sort of door-to-door type scheduled service. Can you explain a little bit about New Freedom for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. New Freedom's pretty similar as far from the application process. The only difference is that it provides transportation for Detroiters in the Detroit area that are identified within 25 miles. So with Metrolift, you can only go within a quarter of a mile of each bus stop, and then there's a range. With New Freedom, it's a great program, but it gets flooded. And that was one of the reasons why I think before I came here, they stopped the intake part. You can go anywhere if you qualify. You can go anywhere within 25 miles. Doesn't have to be within. And I mean,
Okay.
just think about that. That means that everybody currently taking Metrolift, and it depends on availability because it's the same group
Sure.
of operators. Now, if we have something like this and we're operating it ourselves, we probably have a little more flexibility and control, but it's based on availability. But really, that's what
Okay.
that is. Okay.
Okay.
Real quickly on some of the challenges, a lot of people know the pandemic continued. We have labor challenges, limited operator availability, restructuring the safety program and the culture. Uh, we put fair collection back in, and new technology and data reporting challenges, because when we put in the new technology, we're used to counting, let's say ridership, for example, a certain way. The new technology does it different. And when you look at it, you say, well, it's a big jump, something's going on there. So we're trying to make sure that the automatic passenger counters are getting the right information. And eventually I envision a dashboard that's available real time to anyone that wants to go on, because I'll be able to see it. So that means everybody will be able to see it. And we'll put a dashboard in that shows real time what the key performance indicators are. And you won't have to ask,
Great.
where are you, or anything. So it'll be beyond what we put on the website. We're working on that. I have to get a company in here to do the software itself, and that's a procurement process. I don't even want to talk about what I'm going through from that standpoint. I wanted to put this up because this kind of shows, listen, everybody, I know that we're not happy with what's going on here in Detroit, but you're not the only one.
Yeah.
This just basically shows that almost every system has either cut service or eliminated service. I've never seen cities where they stop train service. I mean, that's unheard of, but it's there. I put some of these ads up. So yes, we are not happy with where we are, and the pandemic has wreaked havoc in the transit as a whole. And I believe, Megan, you've actually said that many times to folks, but it's still hard to swallow, because it's like, yeah, okay, what have you done for me lately? That's nice. What are we going to do? We're fighting against
What's the
that grain.
fix? Yeah.
Yeah, but we're fighting against that grain, and we're going to be successful. TEO and mechanic availability, we talked about that a little bit.
TEO, transportation operator or equipment operator, basically what we call a bus driver is technically a TEO.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, it's a equipment operator. We want to make sure that folks understand when we say TEO, we're really talking about a bus operator, though.
Yeah.
So in short, we hired some TEOs with 12 remaining, and these statistics are good statistics. I actually have something hot off the presses about that right next to me. I just got it a few minutes ago. So I'll probably be reading it to you if depending on your questions, but I'll make sure I get you the info, and we'll get into that more. And I'd be missing an opportunity if I didn't advertise that we have employment opportunities, everybody. DetroitMI.gov/Ddot. It's not just bus operators. You saw, I have almost 200 open positions. Take a look. If you qualify, you're going to work, because we have jobs for you.
Everything from bus cleaning and maintenance to planners and admin staff. Everybody, you need lots of great folks.
Everything. Instructors, like you said, cleaners. We were short on CSAs. They're called CSAs. We're going to be working on that. I'm even at a point now where I'm trying to do something creative with some of the people that are displaced from their home, some of the refugees, to see if there's a way we can incorporate them to, the Afghan refugees. But we'll see how that works out. I'm trying everything at this point. So we have to appreciate our frontline employees and engage. So I just kind of wanted to show here that we have mechanic appreciation, we have operator appreciation. And more importantly, when I'm there, I sit there and have an opportunity to put my finger on the pulse of what is going on. I'm constantly in the field. I'm constantly talking to the operators, because not only are we trying to satisfy the riders, we have to make sure our operators are okay. It's a tough job. It's very difficult. Safety and security, we've got a lot of stuff going on there. We received a grant in order to enhance security. We are upgrading our bus fleet camera system. It's old and antiquated. We're going through that, and we've updated our operator training program to incorporate a standard. It's called TAPCO, but it's the standard that is needed during the training process to drive. And we publish a safety quarterly report now, which didn't exist. So people really see what's going on. You already know about the fare collection. We went to the front of the bus. I talked to you a little bit about technology, but I just wanted to show you here that we have clever devices, which for the operators, for everybody, it will be the bus trackers and the automatic passenger counters. We increased our scheduling with Hastis, well, improved it, not increased it. And in changing from trapeze over to Hastis, it is a beast. I mean, that, you know, sometimes people say, well, I need these stats. And sort of, we're in the process of doing something pretty major here, but we're still getting it done. M5 is related to maintenance, daily maintenance. And we'll just keep going with human resources and everything else. So we've got a lot of things.
And I mean, ultimately for people riding the buses, all of this technology should make it give you better data about what's actually happening, about how to both happening on the streets, and about when you are planning what bus routes should go where. Having real accurate information can be really important. Can you say anything about what that means?
Of that you said it perfectly. I mean, when we have more data and more information, we can provide better service to you.
Okay.
The clever devices, for example, the bus tracker, what the customer sees now is the exact same thing that our customer service and dispatch sees. Before, you had to call in and say, you know, where's the bus? What corner is it?
Yeah.
Now you can actually pull this tracker up and then tap on the bus, and it shows not only the estimated arrival, but point by point where that bus is. And when you give that type of power to the rider, you get two things. You get a rider who feels comfortable knowing that they have time to get to the bus and they can track it. If they missed the bus, they see how far they missed it and how long they have to wait, and possibly they could find another mode of transportation if they're in a rush.
Yeah.
Right? Because ultimately, if we can't provide the service, we want to make sure that people know. We just want people to know. And that's one side. The other side is it educates the rider in a way that they can be more, how do you say it, fruitful in their discussion with customer service. So customer service can't say, oh, it's coming. They can say, no, I'm looking at it. It passed me. Why did it run hot? I mean, these are discussions that are happening. Okay.
And that is great stuff. I mean, I live a block from a stop, and being able to pull up and say, oh, actually, it's still 2 miles up the road. I can wait a few more minutes before I walk down to my stop. That's definitely been useful information, I guess. Making that more accurate. It hasn't always been fully accurate, but making that more accurate can make the riding more comfortable.
And that's one of the reasons why we created our own Ddot bus tracker versus the other device, because the Ddot bus tracker is linked directly to Clever Devices vehicle, the Clever Devices equipment on the vehicle. So it's really accurate. The only time that it's not accurate is when a bus operator, if they get to the end of the line, if they don't hit a button when they come back, there's some issues there. So we're trying to take away the manual part of it, but it is accurate. It's some of it's human error. Some of it is a blip in the system, which has been happening. And then some of it is how it's geocoded. I won't get into too much detail, but if it's coded in such a way, and it shows, and the bus actually has to turn around and go up here, the geocode may not track it and may disappear. That's like, it creates that phantom bus.
And I didn't want to delay you to take you too much off, but I think it's important to sort of remind people that even all of these technology things and all of these back end building new facilities ultimately is about making the rider experience and the service more reliable and getting people where they need to go. Absolutely.
Your point is right on. We're looking at raising the bar. So one of the ways to raise the bar, you've heard COA, a comprehensive operational analysis. We're going to be calling it Ddot Reimagined. I just wanted to put some of the points up. I don't want to steal the thunder of the COA, because we're going to do a big grandiose announcement and have many public meetings. But here are some of the things that it does. And what is required. I think the biggest takeaway from this is it requires information from the people. So we have all the fancy doodads that are out there, so to speak, to be able to figure out how many people are in a household versus how many vehicles they have versus whether there's transit there. We'll do all of that, but really it'll be a lot of elevating the customer experience and working closely with SMART to make sure that we attach in our systems. And this is a major thing that hasn't happened here. Hasn't happened in Detroit, so this is big. I know a lot of people can't wait. I'm trying to get through the ARPA fund portion and get everybody to tell me how to spend that money, and then and then simultaneously we're doing this. So we are doing both at the same time. So we're doing something big. The electric buses for the future, like I mentioned, we have them here. We're currently looking at the fleet replacement program, the clean air initiative, and figuring out how many vehicles we need over time. But I'm a little hesitant because we're still in pilot program stage. So it's hard to say, I brought 4 vehicles on, we're going to run a pilot, and then people say, okay, so when you're going to have the entire fleet electric, when it hasn't even been fully proven. In addition, believe it or not, a lot of people are going towards hydrogen. The grants that are out there now, we went after a grant that we didn't get, and we lost to people who put in a low-no grant, which is low emission, no emission, for hydrogen versus electric buses. So we didn't get the money, but the people got hydrogen. And I know a lot about hydrogen. It is doable. It is something that we may dabble in. I want to get the system right. I want to try these electric buses. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Frontline information here, recruitment, develop a competitive incentive would be nice, and retention incentive. So we're looking at those things. We'll see where it goes as it compares to the budget. I'm going to be going to City Council with the budget tomorrow, and I'm sure that'll be part of the discussion. Mobility and innovation, I just put this slide up. Mobility and innovation is actually shifted a bit, and it's under the mayor's office. They've hired a new person. So I just wanted to put some of the information up. They're still moving forward with what they're doing with the microtransit and bus. And my goal is to see if we can incorporate first mile, last mile as an option. And hopefully we can utilize the Office of Mobility to assist us. We did have a microtransit program that worked, but I look at it differently. I look at it, that was nice in a certain area for a manufacturing corridor. Can we do that for everybody? I'm on a bigger scale. So we'll see how we do moving forward there. The future's bright. We have onboard camera replacements coming, fare collection system replacement. We're in the process of the RFP process right now. Future bench and shelter projects, which ARPA, I put those in for ARPA. Everybody's talking about this stuff. Expansion of the electric bus, connecting corners of mobility hubs, those kind of things are part of the ARPA presentation. I may tap on it a little bit. And then I put a picture of the electric bus that isn't wrapped yet. I still didn't want to show it to you wrapped. So I did put it up there though. It does exist. Teaser. Yeah, a little teaser. Again, future's bright. We have the operators. These are my operators right here. We have on our Rosa Parks jackets with the Rosa Parks bus. I'm surprised we didn't have a matching Rosa Parks belt, but we have the 100-year anniversary coming up, May 2020. Ddot was born. So we're going to make sure we have an event, a big event, and we'll have Rosa Parks bus. And we have a couple other surprises we're trying to pull out of the woodwork to show you. So stay tuned with that one.
All right.
Real quickly, the COVID, I'm going to put this up. We've went over it before. We had 64 million and then another 20 million in CRISA. This is how it's laid out and allocated and spent. Of course, everybody's looking forward to the ARPA funding. So this is the ARPA funding can be used, what it can be used for and what it can't be used for. I always put this up because people have great ideas, but it can't be used. This funding can't be used. We're still writing the information down though, because we can still go for it. It just can't be this money. A lot of people get frustrated with that and I understand it, but we can do it it can't be used for pension fund payments, paying off debt, paying pre-COVID obligations and increased personnel. But remember, incentives aren't increased personnel, so they could be used for that.
But stabilized service is such an important component.
and that has been a major discussion. I put together, and this is just one slide and it's a flash. And again, we're going to keep going over it and it'll be adjusted, I'm sure. But what I did is I took what everybody's been saying over the past 18 months that I've been here, and I put it all in a nutshell of, here you go. We only have 51 million though. Actually, everything that everyone gave me, it came out to 260 million, if you want to know the truth. So it was sort of like, ooh, I looked at it.
Lots of big ideas, lots of opportunities for improvement. And I know that you're
people are hungry.
Sure that this funding and future opportunities are wisely invested.
Yeah, people are hungry. I understand it. People are upset. I understand it. I wish I had more than 51 million. I thought we were going to have more, and hopefully there'll be more opportunities. But of that 51 million, I put together just buckets. I won't get into detail, but we have bus stop shelters, which is the actual shelter. We have seating, which is possible seating in locations other than where shelters are. And there are some places that just have dirt and people are just standing in dirt. And there are some seats, they're called semi-seats, that you can kind of slide over a pole and kind of sit, and those could go around. So you do a combination. It wouldn't be a substitute. Connecting transit hubs and mobility, I won't get into detail, but we have a lot of connecting locations, especially with the connect ends. So why don't we do something fancy with those? Why don't we change the structure of the shelter? Why don't we possibly put in bathrooms? Why don't we look at being able to pay fare at those locations? Some of the larger ones, why not a park and ride? So really, that's the major discussion there. It seems like it's been pretty popular so far. Rosa Parks enhancement and refresh. Do I need to say any more? I mean, when I first came, that's all I heard. That's all I hear about. So why don't we do something about it? This is an opportunity to do a refresh, probably maybe do some after work location for kids that get out of schools and teaching, the opportunity to put in some restaurants, and let's do something with that building. It's a nice shell, but it didn't seem like it's complete. Let's complete it. I want the public to complete it. I want you to tell me, what should we do in there?
That's a great way to think about it. It's a great shell, but it needs to be enhanced, enlivened, and really made to be the useful community asset that it could and should be.
Absolutely. So, and then on bus safety, there's some opportunities there, and then enhanced fare technology. There's rear door boarding, mid door boarding. There's all kinds of fancy stuff. Is it for us? Is it not for us? Will it work? Will rear door boarding work? How do you keep an eye on it? How do you do it without stressing the driver out? Worrying about it, those things, but we have to put it up there for discussion. I'm putting everything up for discussion. And then if there's anything else that people are interested in, they throw it out, we add it, we create, by the time we get to the last meeting and we see all of the viable options, this will change. Who knows that, and that's why I put them in squares. If you look at the size of the square, that's the amount of money. Right now, one of the things that concerned me, but I mean, I'm not going to take a step backwards, is we know that RTA gave us $51 million. In the ARPA presentation, the finance department indicated that we're going to take 10 million of that to offset revenues. I'm sure a lot of people have questions about that. The way I look at it is, I'm going to continue, because I promised, to look at $51 million. Okay. And depending on how this falls out, I'll have to find 10 million from another opportunity. For example, the infrastructure grant may cover connecting corners. So if everybody wants connecting corners, maybe I can get 10 million from there. So I'm not stopping. So we're going to just keep going forward. And I'm sure, like the people who have been calling me, asking me, what is that? I'm sure those questions will continue. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing here. And so that's just a nutshell. I really wanted to touch on as much as possible. I'm sorry it took so long, but I think people deserve to know what's really going on.
And I think that is important for people to really understand how many pieces and parts you're juggling, that there are a lot of challenges, that you're not just sitting back and saying, I can't do anything. You're really delving into them piece by piece and really figuring out how to fix that service and create something we can all be really proud of. I guess one of the core pieces that I'm sure you hear most about, I hear most about, is of course people want more reliable service and more buses on the roads. Ultimately, it's about your seating is less important if the bus just shows up quickly. Clearly, as you mentioned a couple of times, hiring challenges, ensuring that the employees do fully show up, and that you can bring in more. It's something that so many different companies and agencies are facing. Heck, True's hiring too. Although we only need one. But can you just go back over a little bit more what you're doing to overcome these hiring and challenges so that you can get more service on the road over the course of the next 6 months to a year?
Right. I mean, it's a challenge. There are so many opinions and ideas, and we're trying to do something that we can execute quickly, right? But we have to be fiscally responsible and everything else that comes with it. And I mentioned hot off the presses here. I got something hot off the presses about where we are with our TEOs, because hiring TEOs is big. So you already know we're working tirelessly to hire TEOs and mechanics, and many of our classifications within Ddot, I showed you some of those. We're pleased to say that we had the biggest class of TEOs start this past Monday since I've been on board. We've had 25 new student drivers started, as well as one mechanic, with one more starting in April 4th. So what does that mean? If all 25 of those people came on board and showed up to work, I could increase the frequency pretty quickly on a lot of these routes. So this is very big stuff. So when I saw that, now one of the problems that we have is we have a bit of a turnover issue, and it's been the history of Ddot. We have 25 that start the class, and when it's done, we get 8. So what do you do with that? So we didn't stop there. So we're working to hire more instructors so we can increase the frequency of the class. So now again, I have to hire, but I'm working on it. Our plan is to have a class of students every 4 weeks. So we're gonna just start a class every 4 weeks. So if we start a class of 25 and then 4 weeks later start a class of 25, if we end up with 8, 8, and 8, we still have I'm at a point now where we're going absolutely insane, but we are doing it. We're also going to be doing a billboard, advertising, social media. I have this down here. I'm getting ready after I hang up with this to do a YouTube video to let people know, that we're hiring. And our campaign is Help Drive the City. We're also working with the Human Resources Department to determine the reasons why some of the TEOs are leaving. We want to find out, okay, why are you leaving? There are some that are saying, well, we come on board and then we just do it to get your license and then we go to SMART. Or we just get your license and we go to UPS, and that has been happening. So we have to find a way to maintain and retain after we've invested. It costs It costs about $7,000 out of our pocket to get you where you need to be. You need to stay. Part of that, one of the ways you do that is, making sure that they understand that you are being hired into a culture. You're being hired to have a group around you and a company around you that you can build a family on. In addition, incentives are always good too. I know that a lot of the transit systems are looking at incentives, hiring incentives, retention incentives. We're looking at all of those things also. But
I will say it was great to see. When I was at my community district meeting, that there were announcements even in the neighborhood meetings. Hey, Ddot's hiring. If you know folks, so good. I was pleased to see that's getting out there. So
all hands on deck.
Can't just do the same old. So bravo in that regard, and definitely keep it up.
Well, we're doing the best that we can. Again, it's all hands on deck. We have. I will say that the city supporting departments are stepping up to a level that they probably haven't in the past, and we just need. It's a teamwork thing. I think if we all work together, we're going to accomplish what we need to be. It would have been nice if this started a while ago. I mean, I've been raising my hand and doing jumping jacks, yelling, screaming that we need operators. It's just so happens now everybody's kicked into gear. But the good news is that we're going to get there, and everybody understands the mission.
Great, great. That's really important.
Mhm.
Another area that you're taking on a big challenge, but hugely important, is the paratransit service, that super essential service for those seniors, people with disabilities who still need to get around, but aren't physically able to get to a bus stop. That service that comes and gets them, it's essential, but it's had some real struggles over the years. Tell us a little bit about how you're planning to improve that service.
So this is a big step. It's a big step for the Detroit. It's a big step for Ddot. It's a challenge. I promised at the beginning of the year that I'd take a hard look at what type of service we have and what the opportunities are. As a matter of fact, at one point I did a presentation where there were 9 options. Heck, we had to decide which one was the best one for the city of Detroit and was financially feasible. I heard a lot of things. You get what you pay for. You only have $15 a trip. That is true. That was 100% true. As a matter of fact, I was the one who raised it. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. So with that being said, we know that's going to cost more. But what was the best approach? Right now, for those that don't know, we have a brokerage layout. We have a provider. Currently, it's Transdev, but there are other companies that do it. Doing basically a majority of all of the administrative work, and they do the schedule that includes scheduling and everything else. They also are responsible for the actual providers, the actual operations. So the various companies that provide the actual transportation, the training of them, so on and so forth. It was all under Transdev. I've openly said that over the past 6 years, this could work if you really are strict, you hold them to the contract, liquidated damages, all of that. I don't think that the way that we're structured, a brokerage system is the right way to go. There are a couple of ways that are good, but from a financial standpoint, we came to the conclusion that we were going to bring all of that in-house. So we're taking all of the portion that Transdev did in-house. So what is that? I want to make sure I don't miss any of them, but I can do them off the top of my head. That's a complete oversight. That is scheduling. That is eligibility. That is looking at the direct services, safety, training, dispatching, scheduling. Again, I say scheduling because dispatch and scheduling kind of goes together, and then customer service. So all of that is going to be ours. What does that mean? That means you don't have the fox watching the chicken coop. Before, Transdev was in charge of eligibility, and the structure wasn't the right structure. That's all there is to it. When we take this in-house, what'll happen is we will subcontract out to the actual provider. So if there's 6 companies, for example, we'll put out an RFP, they will report directly to us. We will do the scheduling. We will tell them what to do. If you call and have a complaint, we will investigate that complaint and let them know. So we are 100%.
Yeah, City of Detroit staff, Ddot staff would actually figure out who can use the service, help them figure out when and where to use it, who needs rides, how. You'll hire out some people to actually pick
the people
Aunt Jane up and drive her to her appointment. But if she has any questions or problems, she'll call back to the city
directly
to actually
to us.
get those resolved.
Yeah,
so,
directly to Ddot. So
okay.
this is ours. Okay, and then internally we'll have a person overseeing the whole thing, reporting directly to me. So
Right.
the best way, I mean, the best way to really look at this is we're now in the process of putting out an RFP for all those who are interested to have the capacity to provide that service.
Mhm.
But that RFP is not an RFP like they've seen before. It has requirements for the age of vehicles. It has requirements for training. It has a lot of strict requirements. And when you have those type of requirements, it's going to cost more money. I have projected that it could be as high as $5 million. But what does that mean? That simply means that if we were at 10 million and now we're going to be at 5 million, you're going to get everything that you need, and the providers will get everything that they need. You get top quality vehicles, you get top quality service, you get top quality drivers, which is what the people deserve.
Absolutely.
The reason why I say up to $5 million is we're going out for an RFP.
Sure, it's still,
When
you're
they're-
still in a contract negotiation
Exactly.
phase.
And if I talk about exact numbers, then we'll be giving away the test, the answers to the test, right? Before you go. So we want the people to bid appropriately. We'll be able to see what's real and what isn't. If somebody has to apply and they need 10 new vehicles and they lease them for 5 years, that price is part of the price. I mean, so
Sure.
I expect it to be more. I was sort of surprised when people were saying, okay, 5 million, why is it increasing? When about 8
I mean, you had
months ago,
explained so very clearly that we've been dragging along at this very, very, very minimal
Yes.
payments, and people have been complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining. You know what? You want something better? You're gonna have to pay somewhat more. Hopefully it's just a little more, but you're gonna have to pay somewhat more to have a reliable service that people can count on, that people feel comfortable putting their grandparents and their neighbors
I agree.
into the care of.
And again, that's why my mouth was hanging. I couldn't believe it. It was sort of, I remember doing my first presentation, and the public was very vocal about the fact that it's not enough money for the providers. It's not enough money. I mean, it was very, very vocal, and I proved it with statistics. And even city council was saying, this isn't enough. Why is it so low? So to now hear, why are you paying 5 million? Justify yourself. I'm just amazed.
To some extent, I know you're always in that impossible position where everyone wants everything perfect now and cheap. But
well, I have no problem going over it. I just don't understand it. But we will keep going. We'll keep pushing. I'll probably have to do another presentation to break it down again or something. But I'll keep pushing. It's not going to stop.
That ties, you mentioned briefly, so the city is going through, I mean, Ddot's a department of the city, part of the city budget. City's going through a budgeting process right now. Yes. If I was hearing right, the budget department recommended, what is it, 5.8 million more than had been funded before, largely to go into that paratransit program.
Correct.
And then I will say, I mean, I'm certainly going to be there, and I'll make a shout out to anyone watching that I believe tomorrow, Wednesday, the 23rd at 2:00 is when Detroit City Council is going to have a hearing on the budget and going to say, what do you think? Is this the right amount of money? I'm certainly going to be there saying we definitely need that extra 5.8 million to ensure we can provide a quality paratransit, and we probably need some more on top of that. But are there any things that you think people need to know about in regards to the proposed budget and the budget process?
Well, it's a budget process. We're going to present the budget. Is it an ideal budget that I'd love? Not necessarily, because I'm greedy and I want as much money as possible for you, the riders. Okay. But is it the right budget for the service that we can provide, projecting out the increases that we want to do over the year? Yes, it is. It is the right budget. I would like another 2 million. I have no problem saying it. When we talk about improvements and we get into details, there are details that a lot of people don't see, the internal portion of it. I mean, I have a lot of internal positions where I would like to bring things to the next level. I would like for our maintenance group to have the same type of training as our operations group. I have all these training instructors for operations, but I have one for mechanics. I would like for that to be 3 or 4, which is the way it should be. The mechanics should be trained and retrained. I mean, in order to do that, that's money. But if I start doing that, because I will tell you, I've went back and forth and put it out there, and we don't have the additional 2 million. I can't do it. So then it's, what do you get rid of on the left side to make it work on the right side? Here we go, right? You already know that
Always
everybody's
having to
saying,
skimp and skimp and skimp. It's so frustrating.
right. So when you hear we don't have a financial problem, we have a people problem, that is true as it pertains to TEOs and mechanics. As far as trying to change the culture and move in the right direction, it's going to cost, it's going to be an ongoing process. I'm sure a lot of the questions that are being asked, I had 20 questions sent to me prior to tomorrow, so I'm sure there's a lot that City Council has questions that they have. A lot of it is aiming towards that internal part I'm talking about. So while I'm trying to deal with the left side, I'm also dealing with the right side. In a nutshell, I think their money's there, but I think, of course, if there was more, I could spend it.
And I think that ties back to what you were talking about before about, well, a lot of federal funds came in previously, that was essential funding to make sure the agency could keep operating when there weren't fares coming in, when you had to do all this extra cleaning. So with this 51 million from the American Rescue Plan, that's federal funds specifically for restoring and improving or enhancing transit service for the city of Detroit. You talked about a variety of different things. There's something like $200 million worth of things that people want to see in improvements, and probably at least that much in sort of, because people know for decades Detroit transit has been underfunded for decade after decade, and you're trying to rebuild, and that takes investment to really rebuild a quality system. Can you say a little bit more about, you said that in addition to these, so you're going to do these public meetings, including April 6th, we'll do one together where you can share more about these ideas and people can bring their input to you. You said that there might be some other funds that could be available, looking at that other 150 million of things on that wish list, on that need list. Do you have, can you say a little bit more about, people have heard so much about all this federal money coming in, but it's not like it's just sort of, other than this 51 million, it's not just suddenly the feds are going to be funneling lots and lots and lots of money. A lot of this is competitive.
Yes.
What are you seeing in terms of state and federal funding moving forward?
Well, it's getting to a point now where it's going to be a creative writing contest, because everybody wants these funds. And the city has moved forward with a team that's looking at every funding opportunity and then dividing out whether it applies to us or not. There are some that may look like they apply. For example, it may say, I don't know, rail improvement. And the first thing I say is, let's replace all the people movers. And then once we look into the detail, you can't. So we're in the process right now of finding out what we can go after and what we can't. The ones that are the most obvious up front are these kind of low emission, no emission opportunities. And again, it's almost too much too soon, because if I do a full fleet replacement plan and bank Detroit's future on electric buses, and after about after a year of driving them here in the snow, we realize, we've already stepped out there. So we have to be, just because the money's available doesn't mean we go after it. One of the reasons why I'm adamant on going through this kind of ARPA fund process, I'm already looking past $51 million. So when it gets to a point that money's available, based on what the public has said to me that we couldn't provide, I can just put the package together and try to get the money. So that's why I keep saying, let's just go through this process. I want to know what's important. It's more of a priority thing. And I take, and then, because quite frankly, when it comes down to it, we're done with the priority portion of it. People are going to want a little bit more. That $51 million is a drop in the bucket. and it'll create improvement. It'll get what people want. But I will personally tell you, I know, and you know, we've talked about this. People want a lot more than $51 million worth of improvement. Okay.
Because
And we're,
people should be able to depend, have a system where they can get where they need to go, regardless of whether they drive. And yeah, that takes investment to create that high quality system that I know you want to create, and that riders really deserve.
And to the point, this is where the catch is, because we have the money for the TEOs. If I could get the TEOs on, I could give you service similar to what you had, similar to what you're used to, but better, because the buses will actually show up. Because I already know everybody's saying we want it back to pre-pandemic. I've talked to you. You know, pre-pandemic, still the same issues were taking place.
Than pre-pandemic.
You want better, and if I do it the way that I'm doing it, you will have better than pre-pandemic, because you'll have the same service miles, but we'll actually be providing that service. So the scheduled versus actual won't have the gap. If I take that same format that I show you and I go pre-pandemic, there may have been more service, but there was still a missing gap. People are waiting. I've heard it. People waiting an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. How is your pullout 99%? Yet I waited for 2 hours. You know, I've heard that, right? That's why I said, let's not do that anymore.
I know that you've given us a lot of your time sharing a ton of great information. I really appreciate it. I wanted to sneak in one more question before we need to wrap up, and that's again that vision for the future. So, in addition to working to overhaul the paratransit system and get enough drivers so that the service can be out there on the road, and invest in more in newer buses and bus shelters and some of these other enhancements. You're also looking at, again, what had been called sort of this comprehensive analysis, but basically, what's the future? What is the future of Ddot and Detroit Transit? Where is it that we want to go, and what's the path to get there? Can you tell us just a little bit more, give a little tease as to what's coming and how people will be able to be a part of shaping that future vision for Ddot?
So are you trying to tell me everything I told you wasn't enough? Wait a minute. But no, I'm kidding.
Recap. Give us a recap of what's
we have
next.
a lot. We have a lot. We're doing a lot. But I will say, I think the comprehensive operational analysis is the key in the answer. From a vision standpoint, the simple vision portion I've talked about, all of the things that you just recapped. But that is just a vision. When you have that is just a vision of what you can accomplish versus a comprehensive operational analysis, which incorporates all of that into what the people have to say, right? So what I'm doing is I'm taking, this is our vision, this is where we're going. Now, how do we structure this in such a way that it fits you? Right now, I can bring back enough of people and hire enough people to provide public transportation with the structure that we have today, but we need to restructure it. This is major. This is a major thing. So not only am I going to bring the people back with what we currently have, then we're going to structure the system in such a way that the people want it to be. So now you have on-time performance, you have service miles being covered, you have dependable buses, and they're running where they need to be. You don't end up with a route like Junction that goes in a circle all day with 10 people. It's physically impossible if you talk to people and you do the analysis and you lay it out. And that's truly the vision. The future of Detroit transportation is in the hands of Ddot Reimagined and the focus moving forward. If I told you this is how it's going to be now, that means we didn't go through the process.
Okay.
Right. So we do need to go through the process. But I mean, you have a great grip on it. After I've laid everything out that we have, I mean, you see, and hopefully the people will see where things are going. I know people want it to happen quicker, and I wanted it faster also. I did not anticipate COVID, Omicron, free fare. I'd never done that before. It was just bizarre. So
definitely, it has definitely been an unprecedented time, and I really do appreciate you sharing all of the steps that it's actively has taken and is taking to improve, and a little bit of a tease of over the next year how we can help you shape what that service should look like. Where do people really need to get Not just what route do they take, but where do they need to go, and how do you can we best get them there? Well,
Right.
thank you so much, Detroit Director of Transportation, Mikel Oglesby, for giving us a whole hour, going through all of that great detail. And with all of those great charts, people can go back through the video and take a closer look at some of that information. And again, we'll talk again April 6th, specifically on that ARPA funding.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and I want people to show up, but we need opinions. And just to give people a little teaser on how that works, I go through the PowerPoint presentation, a full one. I talk about opportunities. I talk about specifics of what it means, and then I ask the people. It's very simple. Which one is the most important to you? They choose it. But then there's only so much money, so which one's the least important? What money do I take to move over here? And I will tell you, the answer has been almost the same. Oh, it's too hard. I can't take away.
Yes.
They pick what they want, and it's like, we need all of it. And that makes me realize that I got the buckets right. And there's more buckets, but I got the buckets right because no one says, absolutely not. We need all of it. There are pieces inside the buckets people don't like and all of that. But I mean, ultimately, I think we
got some good feedback at the first meeting and I think you're right. People liked a whole lot of the pieces, had a few tweaks and adjustments and concerns, but I appreciate you taking the time